Prices for Intel's 11th generation Rocketlake processors were leaked by a few retailers, with some going as far as even selling them already, and they're not looking all that exciting. Intel, what in the world were you guys thinking? Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. Intel's 11th generation processors for the desktop, which are based on their all-new Rocketlake architecture, are just around the corner, which means we'll start seeing leaks surrounding pricing and benchmarks surface the web. About a week ago, I made a video talking about how Intel's 10th generation series of processors can be found at retailers with very compelling prices, especially compared to the Ryzen 5000 series. Initially, I wrote them off as not being worth it due to the fact that they were being sold at prices which were substantially higher than the competing Ryzen 3000 series. At that time, you could have found 3600s for around $150, and the competing 10600K was around $270, which was a pretty big difference. However, due to the whole world being turned upside down and many industries going through a shortage, this has caused prices of Ryzen CPUs to increase significantly. In many places around the world, the 5000 series are being sold well above MSRP, and while the 3000 series aren't as expensive, they've gone up in price as well, and when compared to some 10th gen parts, right now it just seems like a no-brainer to go Intel. That is if you're building from scratch. Of course, if you're already using an AM4 motherboard, then dropping a Ryzen 3000 or 5000 part is the most sensible upgrade depending on which chipset board you're using, as you won't have to buy a new motherboard, you're simply just dropping in a new CPU. But right now in Canada, I've seen 10600KFs go for around $190, which is i3 territory, and that's an exceptional deal considering the Ryzen 5 3600s are going for around $250, or the 5600X is going for a whopping $450. Intel is seriously offering impeccable value there, which sounds strange saying that because AMD and Intel have kind of swapped places here. It's AMD who now have the fastest CPUs, whereas Intel are seen as the more value-oriented options. In the US, I've seen i9 10850Ks drop to as low as $330 from Micro Center, which is an amazing deal for a very fast processor sporting 10 cores and 20 threads. Again, compared to the previous gen 3900X or the latest gen 5900X, there's a huge price difference. I know it sounds like I'm repeating the same information as last time, but I really wanted to emphasize the great deals we're seeing here for the 10th generation processors, as there are never bad products, just bad prices, and that was demonstrated here, where all of a sudden everyone's opinion jumped to the other side of the spectrum. Hence, it begs the question, will Intel continue this trend forward with their 11th generation processors? So speaking of prices, this brings us to the main topic of the video. Harukaze, who's a known hardware leaker and data miner on Twitter, posted some very interesting information. A PC hardware store in Milwaukee called Milwaukee PC listed various Intel 11th generation processors with prices. Now take these prices with a grain of salt, of course, as nothing has been officially announced in regards to MSRP, and I've never actually heard of this store. Not saying they're not legit, but I'd be skeptical of the prices. Now looking at these prices, I've gotta say I'm not too thrilled with what I'm seeing here. First of all, the 11th generation series is a backport of a new architecture to 14 nanometers. Sure, Intel's claiming some substantial changes like 19% higher IPC and better integrated graphics performance, which I guess could be seen as a sought-after feature considering there are no GPUs, but that's besides the point. Though due to the fact that this is a backport, Rocketlake will only top out at 8 cores, meaning the top-end SKU, the 11900K, will only have 8 cores and 16 threads, a reduction of 2 cores from the previous gen flagship, and a 4-core deficit when compared to the Ryzen 9 5900X, which means that it'll lose out by a significant margin in multi-core workloads to a 10900K and get absolutely slaughtered by a 5900X or even a 3900X. This was already even evident by the leaked benchmarks that I had gone over a while back. The only real advantage the 11th generation CPUs have in the market is perhaps a slight advantage in single core performance, though I'm not too confident in it even being a big advantage for Intel, and it probably won't even be that noticeable for most users. We have actually been seeing more benchmarks posted by users who were actually able to purchase an i7 11700K early, and from the benchmarks, it doesn't really seem all that impressive. Sure, there might be, buggy BIOSes out there, and final release BIOSes may improve performance a little bit. There was a user on the Hardware Lux forums who posted their results from Cinebench R20, where the 11700K gets around 5,749 points for the multi-core score and 600 for the single-core score. I've seen 5800Xs attain better multi-core scores, And that's not surprising to see considering that AMD has the better implementation for SMT, which, has been known. But even in single core performance, I've seen Ryzen 5000 processors score higher. With PBO2 and some tweaking, I can get my 5900X to score around 645 for the single core tests. So these scores aren't earth shattering by any means. When we start seeing more real world tests like gaming, I believe we should see Rocketlake trade blows with Zen 3, with neither having a huge advantage over the other. So the reason why I explained all of this is because with Rocketlake, Intel isn't really beating AMD in regards to performance, especially when it comes to multi-core, and they're not a huge leap over Comet Lake, which really is just a derivative of Skylake at this point. The only real way I can see them convince consumers in the CPU market to go for 11th gen over Ryzen 5000 is pricing, just like how they're doing it right now with the 10th generation CPUs. I mean, if I'm to picture myself in a PC hardware store right now, and I see the 10600KF for around 190 Canadian dollars and the 3600 for $250, I'm going Intel. However, with the prices we're seeing from this Milwaukee PC shop, that doesn't really seem to be the case, and Intel is going their usual route by overpricing their products again, which they really don't have a leg to stand on. I mean, these i9 prices are just absolutely ridiculous. Why in the world would anyone choose the 11900K over the 5900X when it's cheaper, is slightly behind in single core performance, but it's going to be negligible, and, will destroy it in everything else, especially that multi-core performance. It just doesn't make sense to me. These i9s in the $500 to $600 range are all DOA, and I said that before. Though I was hoping that with the i7s, Intel would have played it smart, because it's been agreed mutually that AMD did overprice the 5800X by $50 too high. Though as of now, it may not seem like that matters at all due to the shortages of PC parts and the high demand. They're getting sold out instantly. However, even with current circumstances, had Intel priced the 11700K for around $400, it would have been more enticing over a 5800X. Though at $484.99, it's like they're just telling people to go AMD or buy a previous gen part. Now, over at Mindfactory, who are a well-known hardware retailer in Germany, they're currently selling the 5800X for around 428 euros, which is alright, nothing too spectacular, but for the 11700K, they're currently selling it for 470 euros. Also, keep in mind that price difference gets further widened due to the fact that you'll have to pair the 11700K with a more expensive Z590 motherboard, whereas you can pair that 5800X with the B550 board, which is, substantially cheaper and still gets you tons of features like PCIe 4.0. I know it might seem like I'm just being too judgmental too early, but we've seen this happen before, and even now with a new backported architecture, when the benchmarks come out, at best I expect the 11700K to be about 2 to 5% faster than a 5800X, which doesn't justify the price increase. Heck, it's not even just AMD that Intel is competing with, they're competing with themselves, where a 10700K trounces both of those processors in regards to performance per dollar. So Intel, I don't know what you guys were thinking with these horrible prices. It's not like they have the performance to back it up. They had a pretty good open window opportunity here and they blew it. This is pretty much a repeat of what happened last year. At these prices, the products don't look appealing at all, and it seems like a no-brainer at this point to go Ryzen 5000 or previous gen. In fact, they've just made the 5000 series look more appealing, or a 10850K over at Micro Center for $350 just seems like a no-brainer at this point. It's still a spectacular processor, offers excellent gaming performance, and will even beat the 11900K in multi-core performance. My advice is to skip the 11th generation and look forward to Alder Lake, which will be the true successor to Skylake. Here, Intel will finally be jumping to a new manufacturing process with a unique big little core design with DDR5 support. That should be the one to look out for. Rocketlake is just a mere stopgap of a generation. I hope you guys found this video to be informative and helpful. Let me know your thoughts down below. Check out the video description on ways to support the channel and for my other videos. If you guys are interested in more content like this, then make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.